Welcome to Press Start to Scream. This is a horror gaming podcast hosted by me, AstridTheHorrorGirl, and I am joined by two amazing horror streamers. We have AwesomeLePossum and hotterbiscuit with us. How are you doing, Possum?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to chat about horror stuff. It's always a good time. I love talking about this stuff. It's fun. I'm looking forward to being here.
How about you, Biscuit?
Yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me on. And same, horror, talking about horror is like one of my favorite things. So, very excited.
Well, I love talking about horror with both of you, so I'm super excited to be talking about it with you both right now. And, we have New Year. It's 2023. And I was saying to a bunch of my friends, 2023 really looks like it's shaping up to be like the year of horror with everything coming out this year. Obviously, some of this conversation is dominated by what just came out today, which is the Dead Space remake, and also the upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake, as well as the Silent Hill 2 remake. A lot going on as far as remakes, but there's plenty of other horror titles coming out this year too. So what are y'all looking forward to that's coming out?
You can go first, Biscuit, if you'd like.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, kind of going along with what you were saying, Astrid, it's kind of crazy, not only the amount of remakes that are coming out, but also just older IPs. So like Amnesia, Fatal Frame, like there's a lot of stuff popping up that is familiar. Some of it not necessarily a remake, but some of it new stuff. So I think that's really cool. Personally, my number one most anticipated horror game is Sons of the Forest.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that one so much. I played about 5 different games. I was like in 5 different forest game groups in the last couple of years. So I played a lot of it. I'm very excited for the new one.
Yeah, I played it with you, actually. I was one of those people.
Yeah, you were one of my groups. Yeah.
I am pretty sure that I watched both of you and plenty of other horror streamers going through the forest, and just kind of like the overwhelming sense of, oh, this is like your 7 Days to Die, kind of like a horror take on, like, more emphasized horror than 7 Days to Die, which has its zombie apocalypse sort of post-survival scum rust sort of inspired vibes to it. Which we also have y'all played Green Hell? Because that's out.
I haven't, but I've looked at it several times since we finished playing The Forest because I was thinking it might scratch a similar itch, but I just never ended up pulling the trigger on it for no reason other than I had other games I wanted to get to, really.
Right.
But yeah, I've poked around looking at it before. I think a friend of mine has played it, but I don't think I've seen anyone stream it either because I can't remember when that one came out.
Is that a Rainforest Survival?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it came out in 2019. Oh, okay. That feels like forever ago, but also isn't. I guess it's 4 years ago almost now. But yeah, it does really have a forest vibe to it as well.
More of a rainforest vibe.
Yes.
Emphasizing,
Precisely.
listen, this is a different kind of forest to survive
Yes.
Right.
in. Biscuit, you mentioned like Fatal Frame, so you're excited for Mask of the Lunar Eclipse coming out?
Well, so Fatal Frame is one of those series that I've watched a lot of other people play, but I haven't really played it myself. I played a couple of the original, like first or second one when they first came out, whenever that was, and at the time couldn't really get into them. I wasn't really into horror as much as I am now. never really gave them a second chance. So I just thought it was interesting to see old IPs kind of like resurfacing. And I know there are a lot of Fatal Frame fans out there, so I feel like this would be exciting for them.
This is a very unique situation. So Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is an older title. It was Fatal Frame 4.
Oh, okay.
And Maiden in the Blackwater's been out for a while, Fatal Frame 5. And it wasn't received as well as like the original trilogy, but for a long time, fans of everywhere except Japan have been dying to play 4 because it only came out in Japan, and I think only on the PlayStation 3 and Wii U, and that was it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And now we're actually going to be getting a full release. It's been playable through people who've modded it, the original versions, put it on PC, translated it, and it's really been a like love effort from these modders to come in and make it accessible like that. But it was really interesting, the idea of it was the game that changed Fatal Frame from its fixed camera idea that it had to being a third person over the shoulder game, and it used the Wiimote to actually work as your flashlight while you were playing it, as well as use the whole Wii U like big bulky controller / console that it was, to use it as a camera to take pictures and stuff. It was a really fascinating idea, and they successfully modded it over to the PC to use your mouse as the flashlight and everything. And everyone that I know that is a big Fatal Frame fan is so excited for it to finally be over here. And in this attitude of I'm so excited, but also this it's about time kind of attitude.
Yeah. That's awesome, though. That's great that it's finally being ported over.
Especially when you're
that...
watching. Sorry, just because, especially when you're watching other people get it too. You're like, why can't I have this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Biscuit's got Son of the Forest, super looking forward to. Possum, anything you're super looking forward to?
I was just pulling up my wish list. There's a few that look like they're coming out this year, but some of them don't have set dates. I think the big two for me, if I had to narrow it down, and I'm narrowing it down to a bigger title game and then more of an indie game. So I think my bigger title game that I'm really looking forward to is Alan Wake 2.
Yes.
Because that's this year. I don't know the specific date. It just says 2023 for us still.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be really interesting. I really still need to get back to finishing Control before I finish it. I feel like I'm on a timer now. There's with Alan Wake 2, and then there's also, this is such an aside because this is a horror game podcast. This has nothing to do with horror, but the Breath of the Wild 2. I'm like, I gotta finish Breath of the Wild before the sequel comes out. I feel like I'm on a time limit for all these sequels that are like, they felt like they were so distant in the future or never going to happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're coming. I have to actually beat the games now. I'm on such a time limit now. I gotta take it seriously. But yeah, I think Alan Wake 2 would be like my big game that I'm looking forward to doing or seeing. I'm really interested in seeing the world of Alan Wake again now that we've had Control, and kind of just seeing just that updated graphics and everything, right? Like, because when did the original Alan Wake come out? I'm trying to remember now.
2010.
Yeah, so it's been a hot minute since we've gotten to enter into that world specifically. So I'm looking forward to seeing like not only just the environmental changes that they do, but any like quality of life stuff for gaming that they might put in there. Especially now that if you haven't played Control, this is your spoiler alert, but now that we know that Control is in that universe, like what that might entail for Alan Wake 2.
Well, it's also intriguing to me on Alan Wake 2 is because they announced that at the Game Awards, and Jeff Keighley talked to some of the developers of it for a couple minutes, and they specifically said Alan Wake was an action game with some horror in it, but Alan Wake 2 will be a horror game. So
Yeah.
I'm super interested in knowing where that distinction is going to happen and what that looks like.
Yes. Especially because, they're titling it now as the first dive into survival horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. And then the other game I'm looking forward to that's more on the indie side is Paranormal Tales. I don't know if either of you guys have heard of this one.
I
No, I haven't seen that.
Perfect. Yeah, I think just Paranormal Tales, I think, is going to be fun. I just really like found footage film.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was more like horror movies that were, because like Blair Witch Projects did such a good job of it, but like I want more. I want to see the scary things in the found footage. And so this game looks like it's going to be kind of up there with the Blair Witch game in terms of its found footage. So I hope they give us a longer trailer leading up to the actual release, because I think we only have a teaser so far.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the game when you said the name, but as soon as I looked it up, I did see I guess the initial trailer going around on Twitter, and it looks really, really cool. So I would say I'm definitely excited about this one too. And there's just like this really cool fisheye effect on the camera. I don't know, it's great. And just the whole atmosphere of it looks really cool.
Yeah, I think it looks awesome. That fisheye effect, like you said, that'll be just an added little neat perspective to it.
Yeah. I never played Blair Witch from the Bloober team, but I did remember that a lot of people had mixed feelings on it.
I really liked the Blair Witch game by Bloober, and I think I have a love-hate relationship with Bloober. Like, I feel like of the games I've played by them, I've loved half, and I've disliked the other half.
Yeah, I think Bloober does some stuff really well. I don't know if this is like a good transition into some of the new Silent Hill stuff coming out.
Yeah,
because I know that the Bloober team. Which one are they working on?
They're doing
the 2 remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 remake. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, the one game I haven't played by them yet that I think a lot of people kind of unanimously enjoy is The Medium. I think you played that one, Biscuit. Okay, never mind. I thought that was more well received, but maybe not.
Astrid and I are maybe on the same page on this one.
I have a lot of issues with basically full disclosure, I haven't played Observer. That's the Bloober one that I haven't done.
I have. I'm not a fan of that one.
Okay. I've just noticed basically everything after Layers of Fear, because I enjoy Layers of Fear.
Yes.
I think that it's pretty good for what it was and everything. Everything after, I have found that Bloober does 2 things that I really don't like. And one is their insistence on having stealth and chase sections that are subpar at best. And their other thing is that they really, really love to do stories about people who are mentally ill and not do them well. That is something that has very much been bothering me going into them getting the Silent Hill 2 remake, because Silent Hill 2 is very much a story about, amongst many other things, mental illness. And Silent Hill has tackled the subject several times, and I felt that they've always handled it with a lot of tact. And Bloober, I feel that is less true. So especially with The Medium, I don't want to spoil it. I think that if anyone wants to look up what happens in The Medium or play it yourself, because I don't want to be the one voice to determine what you play and don't play. A lot of people liked the medium. I did not, but I have serious issues with the way that they took that story and the implications of what they were trying to say about who is to blame when one of the people is a victim and the other person is not, basically.
Gotcha.
So going into Silent Hill 2, it's, part of me hopes that they reflect on that story and go, oh, this is how you're supposed to write a story with mentally ill characters. Not the way we've been doing it, but the other part of me is like, no, but they were already Silent Hill fans. So something tells me they missed the point.
Yeah, I don't know, because they've been like chomping at the bit to get their hands on something like this, I feel like. But
I think
go ahead.
Yeah,
No, you go ahead, Biscuit. Yeah.
I think that horror is a really difficult genre to get right. And I think that personally, I feel like Bloober is a great example of someone who they were fans of Silent Hill because they were fans of Silent Hill and they tried to replicate some of its success, but didn't really, I feel, fully understand the nuances of what Silent Hill is. So I don't know, and I don't, in terms of, atmosphere and graphics and all of that stuff, I think that Bloober usually does a pretty good job with that. But I would agree, the writing and the nuance of what horror is, what's scary, and what needs to have more tact sometimes, like Astrid pointed out. I don't know, I guess we'll kind of have to see how they tackle it in Silent Hill 2.
My other pet peeve about this is the fact that there's a perfectly good game called Silent Hill by itself, no 2, 3, 4, or whatever, that still has not been remade. And why start with 2? Like, I get that a lot of people love 2. I love 2. I really do. But why not just do the first one? I doubt that there's gonna be a huge amount of people who are like, gross, it's only the first Silent Hill, I won't buy that, I'm
wondering if the second game, if they feel like the second one will appeal to a wider audience, because I think that, especially with I don't know why, I guess just Pyramid Head's popularity.
That's
like
fair.
For some reason, I feel like Pyramid Head is kind of like entered somewhat into the like pop culture.
100%.
Space. So I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just a grab at trying to get people who I don't know, maybe just a wider audience. That's my feeling.
I could see that. Yeah. I think my feelings on Silent Hill 2, like the remake that's going to be making to come out, is I'm so 50-50 with Bloober, but I want them to do a good job.
Right.
Because if they do a good job with it, maybe Konami will loosen the reins a little and we'll get more. Like I know they've got Silent Hill Townfall and Silent Hill F also in the works. But I believe those 2 are other studios as well. Like Bloober's only attached to 2.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that like if 2 does well, then maybe they will remake the other ones as well, and then it will push the popularity for Townfall and F when they come out too. And I think I agree with what you were saying, Biscuit. Like Pyramid Head, I think a lot of people recognize, and that will appeal to people. I think the big thing is just please don't give us another Silent Hill movie if the game does well.
Yeah.
I can't.
I said that before about like Silent Hill. It's frustrating to me that they are doing 2 first, but Yeah, like as far as 2 has been more part of the conversation of pop culture, I get it, which is why I understand, but I'm not satisfied at how we're getting Resident Evil 4 remake and not Code Veronica.
I know. I was gonna comment, Astrid, because you and I were talking about that the other day, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I gave the same. I don't know if it's an excuse, but the same reason. I mean, obviously, studios are gonna go for what they think is gonna sell the most or what they think is the most popular. But I agree that we still have a right to be frustrated.
God,
Oh my gosh.
I was hanging out in a friend's stream today, and I kind of mentioned how I really wish that they would remake Code Veronica, and there was an interesting divide in the chat of people who really, really also wanted there to be Code Veronica, and other folks who are just like, it's fine, Code Veronica can die. And I'm like, what did Code Veronica do to you? Like, it's just fascinating because one of the things I think the person might have been just like trolling one of them, just kind of saying, Code Veronica had such like a like its story wasn't that great, and I'm like, yo, it's Resident Evil. None of these stories are like stellar. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, it would just be nice to see those older games that just they haven't necessarily had their time in the sun, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't, you know? And especially any of these ones that were like released back in the 90s or like at the 2000s.
yeah,
Just it'd be so cool to see them given like the new Unreal Engine or the RE Engine treatment
yeah.
and see what could come out of that too.
Speaking
I,
of that, I'm sorry, Biscuit. Were you gonna say something on that? Because I was gonna change
oh,
subjects, kind of.
I just had a small tidbit. I was gonna say, I think while it's cool that a lot of these older games are getting remakes, I thought it was refreshing to see with the Silent Hill announcement that it's not just a Silent Hill 2 remake, but that there are new entries coming
Yeah.
out in the series.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make a quick comment about that.
No,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
think like it's Silent Hill F and Silent Hill Townfall
Yeah.
that are the new ones. I believe Silent Hill F, the writer, um, who goes by their Final Fantasy username, I think it's Ryukishi07.
Yeah.
They're known for like fantasy, horror, mystery fiction, etc. And they did the When They Cry visual novel series, which some people might know,
Yeah.
and got
The
a lot of
Higurashi no
yeah,
Kokoro ni. Yeah, that
yeah.
it's I never played the like visual novel games, but I did watch the anime that they made of it and it was really good. I enjoyed it
Yeah.
and recommend.
The other one, Townfall, I think if I had to choose of those three Silent Hill games, so 2 remake, Townfall, and F, to like hang my personal hat on, I think I'm going for Townfall because it's Annapurna who's doing that.
Yeah.
And I literally last week, actually this week, oh my gosh, this has been the longest week ever. Literally this week, I just finished playing Outer Wilds. Um, I watched the entirety of Neon White be played,
Mm.
and I'm also a big fan of What Remains of Edith Finch.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they do a really good job with their storytelling. And even with Donut County. Donut County was great. Not a horror game, but it's a sweet little game. And I have a lot of faith in Annapurna
Right.
as a publisher. This is where they prove me wrong, but
Okay. Hopefully not.
hopefully not though. But especially because Neon White, I don't know if either of you guys played that. Um, it was a surprisingly really intriguing game to me, and it did very well in its reviews, and it in a lot of different podcasts and other like areas. I think Giant Bomb, it was like in their top 3 game of the year. Um, And so yeah, I'm hopeful. I just wish they told us more about it because it doesn't even have its own Wikipedia page, but the other two do.
As a speedrunner, I am legally required to know about Neon White.
Yeah, I believe that's what happens. Yeah. It's in the contract.
I wanted to bring up, while we were talking about games being remade from like the 90s and stuff, which personally I feel like if there's any classic games that need to be remade, it's the ones from back when every NPC was promised 4 pixels at most. Like 4 polygons, I should say. Alone in the Dark is getting a remake. The original Alone in the Dark. There's this poor franchise has been through a lot. It basically had its original game in the 1990s and was phenomenal at the time and has aged like a garbage can in the sun. Like, it's been just unapproachable. Anybody from like today who just got into gaming and say like 2015, they would never go back to the way the original Alone in the Dark is, which is understandable but tragic because it was so important. And there's been many sequels that have either been okay or horrible, and we've had like New Nightmare. Alone in the Dark has been through a lot, and now we're getting a remake of the original, and it's looking like they're trying to go for that third person over the shoulder look. I'm curious about it. Don't know if it's going to be 2023 that this comes out. It could, but don't know. I definitely am keeping my eyes on that one.
I looked up screenshots of the original game, and they're really pretty great.
Yeah. Yes.
The color choices, the graphic style, yeah,
yes.
it's all real good stuff.
It's as I said, like in the 90s, that was cutting edge right there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm partially joking, but like it really is like a time capsule, I guess.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to look at these and kind of see, what it looked like and what it was.
Those polygonal cheekbones. My
goodness.
Yeah.
So, seeing what it looks like from this announced remake, I'm very, very intrigued, and fingers crossed, because it looks like they're borrowing a lot from the Resident Evil remakes, which can be a good idea, but it could also lose its original identity in following that too closely.
Yeah.
We'll see. I have hopes. I don't know why I have hopes for another Alone in the Dark game after everything this franchise has put me through, but I want to believe.
Have you played through all of them, even the sequels and everything?
I've played through the first one. I have tried to play through the other ones. Haven't done New Nightmare yet. I tried to, was a bit disappointed. 3, a fun fact about that is when it shipped to the US, it came with saves loaded onto it because the developers felt that the game was impossible if you couldn't skip certain sections of the game. Which tells you how much they had faith in their own product.
Oh my gosh.
And I played the ones that came out for the PlayStation 2, like the first level, and I was like, I'm already done with this.
So it's deserving of a remake, and I can see it on Steam. They've got a placeholder for it with the trailer video and everything.
Yeah. I definitely am hopeful in that regard. Outside of remakes, when I said to Possum and Biscuit as we're setting up, I kind of went, by the way, we're going to be talking about horror games we're looking forward to. Biscuit just kind of says under a breath, just, oh, a new Amnesia. And Amnesia the Bunker coming out March.
It's funny. Don't just Google Amnesia because I forgot that Google doesn't know I'm talking about the game. Gives me the WebMD symptoms. I'm like, oh no, that's actually not quite what I was going for.
So Amnesia sort of re-sparked my interest in horror games because there was a long period of time I played the Silent Hill games when I was younger. And those are really the only scary games I played at the time. And then when Amnesia came out, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And I loved it. It was awesome. And I was hooked. So it took another few years for me to like really start getting into it. But yeah, anyway, fun fact. Amnesia was like the Kickstarter for me to start playing more horror games.
It's funny that you say that because it wasn't Amnesia, but the same developer, Soma, was my big horror game that got me into horror. And I loved Soma. And then I think I did Amnesia Rebirth.
Yeah.
And then I tried going to Dark Descent, but then after doing Rebirth, it was hard for me to return to Dark Descent.
Yeah.
I believe I own one of the Penumbras now to get into, if I remember correctly. But they're on my list to do. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the bunker ends up being because I did enjoy Rebirth. I think with all Amnesia games, the story is always it's good. It's a little wackadoodle, or it can be.
Yeah.
That one in particular, I think, was a little qu'est-ce, but I'm curious to see this one come out. I enjoy frictional games and stuff, so.
Yeah, I for some reason was just not interested at all in Rebirth. And I think it was just the idea of the game. I don't know. I probably should give it a shot, but I just really wasn't interested when I saw it.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that there. I had some issues with running Rebirth. There was just one section where you're kind of underground, and for whatever reason, on my screen as the streamer on the game, I couldn't see anything, and it was like the lighting in that section of the game stopped working. Like I couldn't see anything to progress. And I don't know what kind of a glitch it was, but it made me a little nervous. I hope whatever that was, it gets sorted.
I feel that I've played Dark Descent, Machine for Pigs, and Rebirth. I like the franchise. First of all, Possum, I do want to encourage you to try out Penumbra, but go into it thinking that it's a puzzle game.
Okay.
I think that will help in the what to expect when you go into it, rather than thinking it's going to be Amnesia and stuff like that. It's a puzzle game first, horror second.
Gotcha.
But
I do believe in my heart of hearts, all horror games are just puzzle games at their core.
Unless they're horror shooters, in which case.
Yeah, that's true. In which case they are not.
Actually, yeah, with all the amount of time I've been playing horror games now, I think I've come to the same conclusion, Possum, that almost every horror game is really just a puzzle game in disguise.
Nothing breaks my immersion in a horror game and makes me unafraid than when I'm too dumb to get through the puzzle.
And
then I'm just sitting there fuming, being like, why can't I figure this out?
Possum has been chased by the ghosts, but then, suddenly, out of the darkness, a slider puzzle.
Oh, no. I know.
It's a fine balance of horror games.
I know. You gotta make it... I can't know it's puzzle. Otherwise, it gets me.
I was just going to say that with Rebirth, I think that it is the best game in the franchise as far as gameplay. Like moving your character, like the progression through there, the pacing of the game. I really loved Rebirth for that. I think that Dark Descent has the best atmosphere out of any of the games. And then I think Machine for Pigs has the best story out of the games. And I'm interested to see what Bunker brings to the table since they tease that there's going to be combat in it now. So,
interesting.
something that is not what Amnesia is known for. So, that is an interesting mechanic to include.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really know a whole lot about the Bunker. I'm just looking at a quick article right now, but it also says, I guess you're trying to escape the confines of a desolate World War I bunker. So that's kind of the synopsis.
As usual, frictional games sharing like no information about a game before it comes out. So,
I mean, I'm okay with that, but
same.
Yeah, I don't want too much of anything to get like ruined in their attempts to attract people into play.
Yeah.
Right? So it's always a little bit of a toss up on that. I think it's funny because like I think I'm a little more curious about the new Amnesia now that I know there's combat involved. I think I was at a place before where I think I was really enjoying there's no combat, you don't interact in that way in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the flight only situation, the hide or flight.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've now also become very burnt out on that no combat style of horror because I think we've just gotten a lot of them in the past.
Welcome to the club.
I know, like Outlast 2, for example, I bounced right off of. I couldn't finish that one. Yeah, I'm curious to see bringing an Amnesia style game, but then letting you actually kind of get ripping with it. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it because that has my attention.
From what I can tell, like I think in one of the descriptions I read of it is, and video, they've released another video since then, and these are like 20-second videos, so they show nothing. But they've shown the gun in the original trailer, and it has one bullet in the cylinder. And then they've shown another where there were 4 shots in it. So what I'm thinking is, yes, combat, but kind of in the vein of Condemned Criminal Origins. You will never have enough bullets for combat to be sustainable.
Yeah, it will be combat first.
Yeah. Well, of course, Condemned, expected you to do melee combat. It just wanted to discourage frequent gunplay. You had to look at how many shots you had in the gun by physically looking inside the gun, which I thought was really cool, and the Bunker reminded me of that immediately. So I'm very interested. Combat, but probably not an emphasis on it. Not like Fear, or something along that line, but just kind of like there will be gun, there will be bullets, but there will not be enough.
I think that'll be kind of refreshing. So I'm looking forward to it.
I would agree. Yeah. I'm very curious about the new Amnesia.
And I mean, I'm all for game developers or publishers when they're however many games into a series now as well, spicing it up a little bit and kind of changing it. Because I don't think at that point I want the same game again. You've already given that to me. I want something new out of it. So I think this will be a good way to kind of bring the Amnesia games back into the forefront and with a bit of a twist. I just want Soma too.
I think that's I think that's what 7 did for Resident Evil,
Yes.
Everyone
100%.
We had a good run from 4 Revelations, 5, Revelations 2, 6, and there was a whole bunch of games that were centered around that gameplay. Operation Raccoon City, Umbrella Corps, games that weren't received as well, and Resident Evil desperately needed something to kick it into high gear. And then Kojima knocks on the door and is like, I'm gonna release PT now, and then developers' minds exploded and we got Resident Evil 7 out of that, I feel.
Yeah. OPT. What world we could have had
True.
had that gone through.
We wouldn't have Bloober making Silent Hill 2.
No, we would not. And I guess we wouldn't have had Death Stranding either. And I really liked Death Stranding.
Yeah, that's one I still need to play.
It's pretty good.
I think a second one's coming out, isn't it?
Yes,
Yep,
it is.
yep.
Okay, yeah. I'll play them at some point.
You're officially on the sequel timer as well now, Biscuit.
I know, yeah. I don't know if we still want to kind of... Well, this isn't exactly Silent Hill related, but there is one game I wanted to mention that I was excited for. I know Possum mentioned kind of an indie game. And so I don't know if either of you played Post Trauma, the demo for Post Trauma.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, I think I played the trailer or the demo a while back, but Post Trauma is more of like an indie type game that's coming out. That's
I
described as
remember you playing this.
Yeah. A mix of Resident Evil and Silent Hill or whatever. So I don't know. It doesn't look perfect, but it looks interesting. So I'm excited to see how that one turns out.
I remember you playing that, and I love the protagonist for this game.
Yep.
It's just an average Joe guy.
Yep.
There's nothing special about him. And he's older. He's got gray hair. It's not your typical video game protagonist.
Well, this is on my wish list now. All right.
Yeah, officially, right?
I just what is... Because my ears went and perked up when y'all said a mix between Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And I went, excuse me?
Yeah. I feel like there's been a few games that kind of describe themselves in that fashion. But I think this one maybe leans more towards Silent Hill than Resident Evil. But especially in its monster design. But it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I do remember you playing that a while ago now.
Yeah, the demo came out a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to throw that into the pot for
you are right to do
upcoming.
This.
I think another indie game that's kind of been on my eye. A demo's been okay. Actually, you know what? There's two. I'll talk about one first. So the first one I'm thinking of is Ludo.
Yeah.
The demo's out. I still have to do the demo. There's no set date. It just says coming soon. But that one is a first-person game, and it's on that psychological horror narrative, and you're basically an individual who can't leave his house, but kind of haunting you or following you throughout the game is obviously ghosts, but they do the typical ghosts under a sheet. And so there's basically a sheet that follows you around.
What is it called again?
Luto, Luto.
Oh, I looked up Ludo, Ludo, and that's a board game. So
very different things.
Like a Yahtzee board game. Okay, Ludo.
That is also a psychological horror.
yes, of a different variety.
A different variety entirely.
That's a family board game night psychological horror.
Yeah, exactly. It's right up there with Monopoly.
Yeah, I remember seeing these screenshots of the sheeted ghosts, I guess.
Yes. And from what I've seen clips and smaller videos of people just doing the demo. And I think when you do, if you're going to be a horror game that's going to lean more into the scares, you can't over scare people. Like, there has to be a good balance with the scares. And from what I've seen, they've done the scares pretty well so far. I'll be interested to see what they do when the full game gets released. But what I've seen in the demo has been pretty good so far. Because I think Biscuit, you played it. I don't know if you did, Astrid, but when Madison came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that Madison did a very good job with its scares.
Yeah, I agree.
kind of think that Madison is of its kind of horror game one of the best to have done that in its medium. I really liked Madison.
I had issues
really
with
enjoyed it.
I had issues with the story and some of the puzzles, but I thought the scares were very good.
Yeah,
And,
I had
like,
issues
the
with the
pacing and
puzzles as
everything.
well.
Yeah.
But like that's like, when do I not?
I mean, that's true, but I see, like, I don't know what it was about the game, but I particularly just had a difficult time. But if you take those out, like the pacing of the scares and the atmosphere and kind of how you encounter the different scares, like, I thought they did a really good job on.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best games I've played lately, in terms of that jump scare aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they've really set a good standard, and maybe not necessarily like difficulty of puzzles, but in terms of that scare factor, I think that will be my new game that I'll be using as my measuring stick moving forward.
Yeah, make
because
the puzzles
I really
easier.
enjoyed it. Yeah, just make the puzzles easier. or just make it. I just didn't know what they wanted from me. Like once I got to the puzzles, I'd be like, oh, I get it. But I'd be wandering the house and be like, I don't know what they want me to do.
Yeah.
And it was just so confusing at stuff. Like I'm waiting for something to happen, but then nothing triggers till you start doing it, and you get stuck in a loop.
I can't talk. I'm a Secret World fan. I can't talk about the difficulty of puzzles.
But speaking of that psychological horror, another game that's been on my wish list is coming out this year, called Dark Fracture.
Ah, yes. It's been on my wish list for quite some time as well.
Yeah, it's been hanging out in my wish list for a while now. I'm curious about it. I find with the more space, I don't necessarily want to say Lovecraftian, but the space style games, I don't know what genre you guys would consider Scorn to be.
Oh,
but
I would say science fiction.
See, the thing about Scorn is for it to be in a genre, it would have to have a story first. That piece of shit.
Oh my gosh. But that that spacey kind of gory aesthetic. You know what I mean?
There is a word for it, and it escapes me right now. But it's something that's like, God, the word is something like biotech, but that's not the word, but it's something like that.
Like biopunk is what it says.
There it is.
Yeah.
Biopunk. Yeah. Something about that genre makes me squeamish, and I don't know why.
That's that H.R. Giger aesthetic.
Yeah. There's something about that just like, I don't know. I have a hard time with games like that. And it doesn't make me like afraid of them or whatever, but I just like, I don't know. The aesthetic is so, those worlds are so harsh, it feels like.
Right.
That I'm like, that's the part that makes me uncomfortable playing. Which is silly. But like Dark Fracture, I think I want to check out because I've been watching it for a while now.
I don't think it's silly at all. I have a very hard time going through games that have the Fallout aesthetic.
Okay, yeah.
That's a very, very hard one for me to stomach going through. I think that just some games understand that, hey, our atmosphere is spooky, and they can lean into it in such a way to just make the very environment that you're participating in just that much more eerie and unsettling.
But, yeah, I think anything very spacey, I think just because it's such a desolate environment in space, that I always have like a harder time with them. So something like Dead Space or Callisto Protocol, but more so in the genre of the biopunk, like the Scorns and the Dark Fractures. Those are the ones that are usually a little more squeamish for me.
Well, then,
I can usually get around the regular space ones, though.
Let me tell you about a game I'm super looking forward to called Retro Space.
Ooh.
Which I like to point out to people how the game describes itself: immersive sim, disco punk, space horror stealth shooter.
Oh.
Oh, now
which
that's
everything I've ever wanted. So
Oh
Um,
man.
it very much looks like this is what you would get if you took System Shock and took the ideas of like Thief and Dead Space and put them together. Looks like what Retro Space would be. I saw this trailer and immediately went, "Oh, yes, I will buy that." Yes.
I like the look of the antagonist as well. Sort of like the fly looking
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
It's that idea of because I can't tell, but it looks like it's doing a sort of like necromorph Dead Space enemy kind of thing, but I guess more mutants emphasized.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. That I'm looking at the photos of the different enemies that they've got there. I like the robot too.
Mm-hmm.
They have nice little hook hands.
Yeah. It's the unfortunate thing about when you have hook hands. You are a very dangerous adversary, but it really makes video gaming hard.
You need the that new PlayStation adaptive controller that they've come out with. That'll take you far. Yeah, no, this one looks cool. I like the idea that you need different tactics against the different enemies
Mm-hmm.
because they're separate from each other. So learning and memorizing the enemy's behavior and abilities, etc., is a neat way to kind of bring in that survival aspect too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go in blasting all the time. It's not always going to work out that way.
Yeah, I'm super super excited for that game. It just looks like everything right up my alley from what I'm wanting from a new horror game.
That looks awesome.
Is that one coming out sooner this year or later?
I don't know. Just a good old coming soon, you know?
Oh, at some point it will be here. It will exist.
Yes.
Cool. I'll have to keep my eye on it then. Add it to my wish list.
Yay. I like that we're adding to each other's wish lists here.
Yeah, it's always good to keep in the line. Go ahead.
I'll just keep going with games I'm looking forward to this year.
I want to hear them. Do it.
Well, I want to hear from y'all too. I don't want to just be like, hey, add these to your wish lists, friends.
No, please. That's what I want. That's what I'm about. I think there's another game I kind of want to play. It came out like 2 weeks ago. It's free to play. It's called Garten of Banban. Have you guys heard of that?
Know this? No.
No.
It's a first-person game, and you're in like a kindergarten building,
Oh.
and it's kind of it's reminiscent to me of the Five Nights at Freddy's and Poppy Playtime
Gotcha.
aesthetics.
Gotcha.
Except it's in like a kindergarten classroom / play place.
What are we calling this genre that has emerged recently? Like,
I know there's
don't
so many
know.
games that have come out with that like kitty sort of
yeah, it's
aesthetic.
like it's almost Uncanny Valley, but it's specifically for the aesthetics of like 90s, early 2000s, like toys for kids. Like,
Yeah.
like it's really very fascinating and does some very great freaky visual stuff, but I don't know if we have a name for it yet.
Yeah, because go ahead, Biscuit.
Oh no, I was gonna say there's enough games coming out with it that I'm sure it's gonna come out soon.
Yeah.
Something to describe it, I guess. But
Yeah,
there is oh sorry, Possum.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, yeah, because like I feel like Five Nights at Freddy's falls under this category as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to call it.
There was that puppet game that came out. The demo came out. I think like middle of last year. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, it was like in that same vein.
A puppet game, you say?
Yeah, it was like oh gosh, let me see.
Oh, is it My Friendly Neighborhood?
Yes, I think that was it. Where all of the characters are like they kind of look like Sesame Street puppets that have come to life.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, but that again, that one is something that falls in that same genre.
Yeah, this looks neat. This looks like you fell into a Sesame Street set.
I don't know if that one is coming out this year or not. Because the
Yeah, it just
demo
says
came out
coming
last.
soon.
Yeah, so it may be next year, not this year. But that's one that the demo was fun. I enjoyed that one.
Oh, it looks neat.
And what
There's
was the
this
one that you were looking at, Possum?
um Garden of Ban. I think it's Garten, like kindergarten. Garten of Ban, I believe is what it was called. Yeah. Garten.
Yep,
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
definitely that aesthetic again. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there is a second Garten of Ban coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already got a sequel. I believe that one might be a I think it's going to be a successor, but I get the feeling it's going to be a more polished
Right.
successor and probably won't be free like the first one is.
These games kind of remind me of just like old creepypastas where
Mm.
they take like I don't
Yeah,
know,
back with
a character.
there was Candle Cove that Chris Straub made.
Yeah.
The idea that there was some show that was taken off the air because even though it was just puppets for kids, like they just did all these like and proceeded to describe the most David Lynchian surreal scenes in them, you know. I'm like, wow, we really watched some fucked up shit when we were kids and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I mean I I want there to be a name for this genre because I've been enjoying those games. Like I've enjoyed the
Mm-hmm.
Poppy Playtime games. I think the other thing I'm really enjoying about these games, like why I really like them, is that they are short. Um, I think I've gotten into a phase now where I don't want to be putting 20 to 40 hours into every game that I play. Now, there's some games I love the environment enough that like I want to be in it forever, which is why I haven't finished Breath of the Wild yet
Mm-hmm.
for that exact reason. But I think nowadays, like I'm content with a 5 to 10 hour game.
Well, it
I
especially makes sense with horror because the atmosphere is supposedly by design to be oppressive, and
yeah.
you shouldn't want to spend more time in that environment than is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if a game goes on for too long and it's just repeating the same shtick the whole time and it becomes like a fetch quest of puzzles, so to speak, it that's a very fast way for me at least to lose interest in the game. Whereas something like Sons of the Forest, where it's crafting based, like there's a
Mm-hmm.
base you build, there's a lot more going on,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still exploring that world. That's one of those games where I could easily kind of get lost into it.
Yeah.
But if it's a more linear game, then I need it to be shorter. I no longer have that kind of time
Right.
to devote to every single game. The one thing I like about Sons of the Forest too, sorry, just because I forgot about this earlier, I really like that in this one, you get the AI if you're playing solo. Have you guys
Yeah.
seen that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was neat. Yeah.
I think his name is Kelvin or something. But I think it makes it a little more accessible to people who maybe don't have friends who want to play that kind of style game with them, or just friends that aren't as into that genre, so that you can still kind of get the experience and not be doing all the work by yourself, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, and the
Which I think,
first one, if you played solo, it was literally just you, right? Doing everything.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I also like that if you overwork the AI, he takes a break and stops doing stuff. I think that's a really funny shtick that they put in.
Hey, even AI deserves to take a break every once in a while.
Exactly. Exactly. One
Another.
game I have that's oh, you go, Astrid. I've
No,
talked a
no,
lot.
no. I love hearing the possum talk.
Oh my goodness. One game I am looking forward to. It's technically out, but it's in early access. It just came out. Um, is Hellseed. I don't know if either of you guys played the demo for that.
I know
No,
about
I.
Hellseed, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's getting hit by a lot of mixed reviews in early access. I believe it's a solo developer. So I'm hoping that they're making those changes accordingly. I haven't done the early access yet, but that the environment, like the atmosphere that they created in that demo, that's one of the scariest games I've ever played. Like by far. And so I'm like, I really want them to kind of polish the game up now that's in early access. They're getting those reviews in and getting that feedback, because I think that could be a really good follow-up to, I don't want to necessarily say Visage, but that style of there's no music, it's completely atmospheric, and you're in a house kind of deal.
Is it pretty like PT inspired? Because that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the screenshots.
I don't know if it's necessarily very PT. I believe it takes place in like a hospital, if I remember correctly. They might be pulling from PT a little bit, but I wasn't getting necessarily the same vibes, like PT vibes, that I can get from other games that try to emulate PT.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, as soon as you
Yeah.
said Visage 2, it kind of had a little bit of that I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think it's more akin to Visage than it is PT. And I know that Visage is technically like a love letter to PT. But I mean more in the sense that you're in a house. It's completely quiet. It's that atmospheric creaking of the home and whatnot. And you're kind of left to your own thoughts in the atmosphere. I want to return to it when it's no longer in early access, I think. But what are you looking forward to, Astrid? What are your games?
Really looking forward to this game Ad Infinitum, which is coming out in April, inspired from Shell Shock back in the day. Basically, the idea here is that you are a German soldier haunted by the horror of World War I, and it fucks around with this back and forth between you being back in the trenches to being who you are now and having these visions of otherworldly horrific creatures and a cosmic horror sense, but twisted in this way that makes it seem like it may be induced from trauma experienced from World War I, but maybe an alternate history where there was some monsters or demons involved as well. It's an interesting idea and something that the series Shell Shock, I think, wanted to do, but just kind of wasn't able to for their vision not being realized by whatever people were pressuring them to make it more of a military shooter than horror game.
It looks like there's a few games coming out that are kind of World War I based, or I guess part or have something to do with World War I. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we have Amnesia the Bunker as well in that happening around the same time, and it is interesting. It's interesting that patterns like this happen in game or in mediums of storytelling from seemingly no like source to sort of inspire it that you can point back to. Like there was that year in cinema when there was like 2 separate movies about the White House being attacked by terrorists and the Secret Service having to save the president, and like I don't know if there was like any big deal that was happening that caused 2 completely distinct studios to make the exact same movie in one year, but that happened. Seems to be happening with World War I in horror right now. Maybe it's the fact that there was a Doom mod that was supposed to be coming out in horror that was supposed to be like a World War I thing as well. That's not out yet. Anyways, I'm just really interested and fascinated in this game. It looks like it could be really, really cool. And I, who really looked back on the Shell Shock games with this sort of like, God, this could have been good, but it definitely wasn't kind of view of them, I am excited to see something that may be trying to realize that vision.
I never played Shell Shock, but I wonder. So, like, when I think about horror and sort of like war trauma, I think of Jacob's Ladder. And so, I
Yes.
don't know, do you think it might kind of approach the horror in that way? Or I don't know. I don't know what kind of horror they tried to put in Shell Shock.
In the original Shell Shock, it was like everyone's heard probably at this point the mission in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 where you have to like shoot up an airport basically full of innocent civilians. That was more of the vibe of the first Shell Shock of like you are in war and the horrors of war are all about you, and you are in the midst of doing these heinous war crimes as well, kind of thing. And respected it, but I don't think that it ever was able to realize the vision that it wanted to have. Shell Shock 2 was straight up like it's the Vietnam War and there's zombies in it. It really, really did not work. It really did not work, but I thought it was a cool idea. And for mixing those two things, I feel like that's what Shell Shock wanted to be, and it just didn't. It just didn't work for them. So, bringing up Jacob's Ladder, I think that's an excellent point because I think that it wanted to be Jacob's Ladder without the ending that I will not spoil.
You're not going to spoil the 1990 classic.
That one I will not cross the line. It's too iconic of an ending.
That's fair. It was for the best. You never know.
You never know.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point, Biscuit. What else are you looking forward to, Astrid?
I'm glad you asked, Possum. There's Fort Solis, which appears to be a action horror game on Mars, and it gives me vibes of maybe this is what Martian Gothic was supposed to be, which everyone knows the game Martian Gothic, right? I don't need to talk about it. It's got Roger Clark, Troy Baker, Julia Brown, and you're making decisions a la your kind of choose your own adventure ideas, go this way kind of thing, but it is much more in an action based storytelling rather than like your dark picture anthology quick time event storytelling.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And more solitude and space horror. We love to see it.
Yeah, that looks pretty neat. Like I said, I'm not like totally absolutely against space horror. I think I've just played a lot of it lately, but
yeah,
that one looks pretty. That looks pretty neat. I do like Mars. That looks fun.
The Dead Space Callisto Protocol bug has been really, really inspiring some horror lately.
I was watching a little bit of Dead Space today, and I've seen a little bit of the Callisto Protocol as well. And I feel bad that the Callisto Protocol just had so many issues. I just think it's a little unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because, I liked their premise. I liked the idea. And I know that it's not going to be Dead Space and it should be its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it would have been interesting to see if Callisto had done well and Dead Space came out as well. Like, you kind of got these two dueling giants of the space horror,
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfortunate they had all those performance issues.
Unfortunately, that feels like the kind of the par for the course of new titles upon release. Is the anticipation is, don't worry, they'll patch the bugs.
That does happen a lot.
Yeah, I think I no longer buy things on release date anymore. For that reason, I wait till patch 1 comes out at this point.
You're right.
I know to expect. And I mean, it's so easy for bugs to occur, I'm sure, in video game development that like I know the devs work hard they're out here doing their best.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that's probably unavoidable to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I let them put their fixes in, and then I'll come in and check it out, and then I
sure.
give my thoughts.
Well, what we have established is there's lots of horror games coming out. This year is going to be pretty iconic for horror, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think we're good. Y'all good? Talking about what's coming up?
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of good games.
Yeah, I think we're eating good this year.
Yes.
We're eating good this year. And I think we'll be happy.
Absolutely. That's where I think we're going to end our podcast for the day. Before I do, again, my guests are AwesomeLePossum, hotterbiscuit. I'll let y'all shout yourselves out before we end here. We'll start with hotterbiscuit. Tell us where we can find you and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Astrid, and thanks again for having me on the podcast. This was a lot of fun. But I, obviously, horror streamer. I stream. I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube under hotterbiscuit.
Hell yeah. Biscuit's great.
Biscuit do be great.
She do be great. I am AwesomeLePossum, or just Possum. And this has been a blast. Love talking about horror games. Thanks for having me on, Astrid. Look forward to coming back. And yeah, you guys can find me pretty much on all social medias at AwesomeLePossum. And kind of similar to Biscuit, I also stream on Tuesdays, but I stream at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do lots of the horror games over there as well.
Well, thank you both for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that y'all will have a good rest of your day and indeed the weekend.
You too.
Yeah, thanks, Astrid.
Yes. Farewell, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.